Hello, I'm Dr. Marla Shapiro. I'm a former president of the North American Menopause Society, and I sit on the board of trustees. And I'm delighted today to be here with Cynthia Stuenkel. Cynthia, tell us who you are and what you do.
I am an endocrinologist and menopause expert here in San Diego. I work at the University of California, San Diego, trying to spread the word and educate our medical students and our young doctors in training.
So, I'm a woman out there, and I'm perimenopausal or menopausal, and I'm very confused about whether or not I should be taking an aspirin every day. It seems that it's like an apple a day, an aspirin a day is a good thing for me to be doing. Is it?
Our information about the use of aspirin is shifting right now. And so the most recent formal recommendations from a body called the United States Preventive Services Task Force that looks very carefully at all the information that's out there from studies has told us in 2016 that if you're over 50, but only if you have a 10-year risk of heart attack or stroke of at least 10%, and we have ways to measure this in individuals, and you don't have an elevated risk of bleeding, and you're willing to take these aspirin therapies for at least a decade, then you might be a candidate for what we call primary prevention, trying to stop that first heart attack or stroke.
And this is true for all ASA, acetylsalicylic acid, 81 milligram preparations. We tend to call it aspirin, but it's all ASAs.
Yes. And most of these studies have been done with either 80 or 100 milligram doses. The first study in women was actually done with an every other day dose. So, but most of these recommendations would be for daily aspirin at an 80 to 100 milligram dose.
So if I'm under the age of 60, and my biggest complaint is hot flashes and night sweats because of my menopause.
Don't think the aspirin will help that.
Absolutely, in healthy women then, this is not suggested.
Our population has shifted. We have more obesity, we have more diabetes. At age 50, half of women have hypertension. I think it's really important to sit down and go through that risk calculator. And there's an online program that women could even access called Aspirin Guide. And they can put in what their risks are for heart disease. It's a very straightforward, I put my own numbers in to look at it, and it asks about risks of bleeding because that's the balance.
And what are the types of risks that women need to know about in terms of risks of bleeding?
Have they had problems with GI bleeding? Have they had ulcers and bleeding? Have they had any kind of blood condition that might predispose them to bleeding? Sometimes people whose kidneys aren't working up to par can have increased issues with bleeding. And so those are the sort of things that we try to balance so that we don't try to get some benefit, but at the risk of excessive bleeding.
And if we look at age as, I'm turning 60 or I'm turning 65, does that mean now that I should be taking ASA? Is age ever alone a guide?
To my knowledge, not in the current recommendations. 50 with risk factors, yes, it's recommended. 60 with risk factors, it's still individualized because as we age, our risk of bleeding increases. And there's some new data for 70-year-olds. The Preventive Services Task Force said we can't even say for sure for under 50 or over 70. And a new study that has just come out in the New England Journal looking at everybody had to be over 70 to participate did not show much in the way of benefit for cardiovascular events, for disability, and for cancer reduction, which was something else that's been
So one
out
last
there.
question. If I'm a woman under the age of 70 in the menopausal years, and I have high blood pressure and high cholesterol, but I'm taking medication that controls it, are those still considered risk factors where I would get a benefit by taking an additional ASA?
They are, and it asks in the questionnaire if you have treated hypertension or not and what your cholesterol levels are. I really just keep wanting to come back and saying it's important to measure the risk factors. And I'm a numbers person. I like to know what they are. I think women should know what they are and because a lot of women are under a cloud of doubt, I think, about their own potential risk of heart attack and stroke. So do it by the numbers, and that way you'll know which route to take.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.